If you're watching this on release day, yesterday was the final episode of Pokemon Journeys 147, the finale of Ash as the protagonist. Tomorrow is also the 1-year anniversary of my very first video on this channel, which was trying to beat Pokemon Fire Red using only Ash's Pokemon. So I thought it's only appropriate to do the same with Pokemon HeartGold, the next game in the series. So I have two goals. One, capture every one of Ash's Pokemon that is available in Pokemon HeartGold and Soul Silver. Number two, collect all 16 badges and defeat Trainer Red using those Pokemon and the moves that Ash had them use. There are several caveats to this, to specifically Ash's dex. For example, first, I'm only counting Pokemon shown in Ash's memory or fantasy at the end of Pokemon Journeys episode 135. Second, I could only catch them in a form that Ash encountered or captured them in. For Dragonite, I can catch Dragonair in the wild, and that's how Ash first encountered it. Third, I'm only counting Pokemon toward the dex total when they reach their final form that Ash currently has. This is going to make it a little bit easier for me. And fourth, I'm only catching a Pokemon that can legitimately be acquired in a playthrough of Pokemon HeartGold. I'll explain these a little bit more as they come up. But for now, let's get started. Arriving in Newbark Town, we head to meet Professor Elm, but the fact that we already own several Pokemon is causing problems. Pikachu is nervous about entering the region, and a Pokeball is missing from the machine. Elm offers us a starter, and I pick Chikorita because it's the first Johto starter that Ash caught. But then the game lets us rename Pikachu, so I call him Sparky. Again. Now, let's meet the team. We have Sparky the Pikachu, Onion the Bulbasaur, Alex the Squirtle, and Zippo the Charizard. They have levels and moves that match what they roughly would have been when Ash entered Johto. Because why not? We also have a female Chikorita, which matches the one that Ash had. I just have to nickname her when I get the chance. We then reunite with Professor Oak, who acts like he doesn't know us. Such disrespect for the most successful trainer from Pallet Town in history. And also the strongest Pokemon trainer in the world. Anyway, we also meet a redheaded noob, and Zippo dominates him like he dominated Casey in early Johto. I'm not sure why he has a Chikorita when I also picked Chikorita. On Route 30, we find a Caterpie. Obviously, we have to catch him like Ash did. And obviously, it worked on the first try. I said obviously, it worked on the first try. I said obviously, it works on the first try. There, like I said, first try. I name him Happy and add him to the team, but not the Ash Dex yet. Now, there's nothing left to do but challenge Faulkner. And obviously, we have to use Zippo to broil his birds. Just like in the anime, Faulkner didn't stand a chance, and that's the first of 16 badges. On the way to Azalea Town, Happy evolves into Butterfree and finally joins the Ash Dex, bringing us to a total of 5. The Dex continues to expand as our nameless Chikorita evolves into Bayleaf, bringing us up to 6. We then catch a Cyndaquil like Ash did and name him Entei. He's going to replace Charizard, who's off to train for the League. Also, remember, I'm counting every Pokemon that can be legitimately acquired in HeartGold. You can choose Cyndaquil as a starter, so that's why I'm catching him. We have to clear Team Rocket of Slowpoke Well, and then go blasting off again before Kurt gives us a free fastball as thanks. Shortly after that, Entei evolves into Quilava. Ash's Cyndaquil didn't evolve in Johto, but I'm counting it because Quilava is its final form for Ash. Time to grind until I get Flame Wheel. With rare candies, obviously, to save time. Once again, we're going to challenge the gym with Ash's same team. In this case, Quilava, since we let Entei evolve. We don't have Flamethrower like Ash's Cyndaquil, so him being evolved will balance that. Either way, Bugsy didn't stand a chance. Scyther is the only threat, but all he uses is Focus Energy and Leer before falling. This allows us to earn the Hive Badge without taking any damage. And now, we can catch some more Pokemon, so let's get started. Random guy in Ilex Forest teaches Garlic how to headbutt, so we can knock Pokemon out of trees. Back in Azalea Town, we catch an Apom named Monkey and a Heracross named Heracles. Then in the forest, we knock a shiny Noctowl out of the tree and name her Mrs. Owl. Full disclaimer, I used a cheat to get a shiny Noctowl. I find shiny hunting to be quite boring actually. If you want to see any kind of shiny content though, let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, we move on to Route 34 where we catch Dinocroc the Totodile. Then I catch a Beedrill in the bug catching contest and only win second place. This game is rigged. His name is Barry. And that concludes our catching spree. With that done, here's the new team. I'll grind them up a bit off screen before we face Whitney. I also noticed while switching my team around that both Happy and Barry are adamant nature. That's perfect for Barry and the absolute worst for Happy. Time to battle Whitney. She leads with Clefairy and I choose Entei. Flamethrower deals massive damage to the Pixie, who retaliates with Metronome, which pulls Arceus' Judgment. Is it just me, or does Clefairy's Metronome seem to pull legendary signature moves all the time? It's ridiculous. Anyway, Whitney heals with a super potion, so Entei has to use 2 more flamethrowers to get rid of Clefairy. Next is her infamous Miltank. She uses Attract on Entei, but he fights through his lust to spew smoke into Miltank's eyes. He gets off 3 bouts of smoke, while this eagle-eyed Miltank manages to stomp his face in a couple times. I pivot to Mrs. Owl, who dodges a rollout, but the stomps refuse to miss. In fact, Miltank scores 2 critical hits, knocking out Mrs. Owl. I send out Dynacroc to lower her speed, but 2 more stomps connect to knock her out too. I bring Entei back out for another dose of Smokescreen. Then Miltank not only hits through that, but also scores another critical hit. This stupid cow is busted. Next up is Heracles, who leers at the cow a couple times before dodging 5 stomps in a row. The dodging continues as Heracles chips away at the cow with Horn Attack. Whitney tries to salvage the situation with the super potion, but a critical hit negates her efforts and takes down her stupid cow. Heracles then earns 2 levels from this heroic victory and tries to learn Aerial Ace. It causes so much
emotional damage
to pass on Aerial Ace, since Ash's Heracross never used it. 3rd badge in hand, we cut down a tree and head to catch a few new Pokemon. Backtracking to Cherry Grove, we fish to find a Krabby. His name is Rangoon. We continue to Route 37 to catch a Pidgeotto named Drib. Remember, Ash never owned a Pidgey, so I had to catch it as a Pidgeotto. Nearby, I also find Eradicate and a Cantonian Farfetch'd. But the former isn't in the Journey's fantasy sequence, and he never owned the latter's Cantonian form. So Sparky puts them in their place. The Grave. With that done, I save an encounter for a later route and head to the gym. Morty's team consists of a Ghastly, 2 Haunter, and a Gengar. A Confusion from Mrs. Owl destroys the first, then one of the Haunters takes itself out with Curse. Easy pickings so far. Gengar is 3rd, so I switch to Sparky, hoping to paralyze him. But he just puts the boy to sleep before blasting him with a couple of Shadow Balls. Mrs. Owl comes back in to clean up the mess by putting Clefable's Shadow to sleep and chipping away at him with Confusion. Morty sends out his last Haunter. Care to guess how we handle it? And that's 4 badges. On our way to Olivine, we run into an actual Entei. I switch in my own Entei, but the coward runs in fear. Time for 2 back-to-back gyms, starting with Chuck. The first round is Heracles versus Primeape. Horn Attack deals just under 50% damage, so I switch to Tackle to avoid a potion. After a miss, Heracles makes up for it by scoring a critical hit, which is not what I wanted. Chuck potions his Primeape back to full health. Horn Attack again leaves Primeape at just over half health, but he's managed to whittle Heracles down with Rock Slide and take him out. I then send out Entei to wrap this up, completely forgetting that this Pokemon has been hurling rocks non-stop. Entei is outsped, survives 1 hit, flinches, misses a quick attack, then is simultaneously killed and buried before dealing any damage. Alright, fine, let's just do what Ash would do, send out Sparky to take care of business. And he does just that. Thunderbolt connects and knocks out Primeape, bringing out Poliwrath. I then strike with Thunder, thankfully managing to hit. Poliwrath somehow survives the attack, but is paralyzed. A Citrus Berry pulls him out of potion range, so a Thunderbolt in the next turn cleans up the match. And now, let's immediately face Jasmine as well. But this one goes about as easily as you should expect. Even with a level disadvantage, Entei is able to melt all of her Pokemon with ease. Both Magnemite fall to single hits of Flamethrower, and Steelix barely survives 1 blast. She even gets burned and then just screams in pain before melting completely. Nice try, Jasmine. Now, we go on a full-fledged catching spree that spawns the entire region that's available to us anyway. On Route 42, we catch a Mankey named Anger. Ash first met his Primeape as a Mankey, so I'm allowing this. We then splunk into Union Cave, where we can find a Lapras chilling in this pool on Fridays. Her name is SS Ann. Now I have to camp out on Route 48 for a while. This, honestly, is my favorite grinding spot in the entire game, up until Victory Road. The amount of experience here is much more consistent, even than the routes south of Blackthorn City. It's also where Tauros is the most common, at 21% compared to 5 and 4% on the routes between Ecruteak and Olivine. That means I am able to catch all 30 of Ash's Tauros here, who get to live on Old McDonald's farm. Or Ronald McDonald's beef farm, whichever fits your headcanon. While hunting Tauros, Rangoon, Anger, and Drib evolve into Kingler, Primeape, and Pidgeot, respectively. I also find a female Mr. Mime during the second aptitude test at the Safari Zone and name her Pennywise. Now that the Ash Dex is nearly full for the main part of the game, it's time to set out for Blackthorn City. But before we do that, we have to defeat Price. This isn't difficult at all for the starter trio, though. Garlic takes down Seal and Dugong with some sharp leaves. Dino Croc does her best to take down Piloswine, but just can't hack it. So Entei comes in to finish the job with Flamethrower. Also, starting now, I'm going to keep track of every major Pokemon that Dino Croc can defeat. For every one, I will give away one plush of a Pokemon that was in a previous video of mine. So stay tuned to the end to find out how many plushes I'm giving away. Skipping past the Team Rocket plot, we head to Route 45 south of Blackthorn City. There, we catch Manny the Phanpy and Lobster the Gligar. Manny then evolves into Donphan and joins the team, giving us a total of 18 in the Ash Dex. This is as full as the Dex can get before the postgame. Now, let's challenge Claire. Claire's lead Gyarados falls to Thunderbolt immediately. I feel like I don't even need to mention this ever again. Second is one of her Dragonair. I switch to Garlic, who gets paralyzed on entry, but then she returns the favor with Body Slam the next turn. Unfortunately, this doesn't stop the dragon from pulsing her out, almost like she's making minced garlic in a blender. Mrs. Owl comes in and finishes up the dragon with Aerial Ace. Or not. Cool. Claire's Hyper Potion gives her time to paralyze Owl and hit an Aqua Tail before her first Dragonair falls. The second one comes out and starts trying to slam Mrs. Owl. She doesn't appreciate that, so she manages to dodge a few hits and take out that Dragonair as well. Last is Claire's Kingdra. She finishes Mrs. Owl before waterboarding Entei with Hydro Pump, only taking a single smoke screen in the process. I send out Sparky to finish the match, and he scores a critical hit on Thunder. Then, the most ridiculous nonsense that I have ever seen in my life happens. Sparky and Kingdra miss a total of 6 consecutive moves. This battle would have been over if Thunder had hit any of those times. But now I'm down to Dino Croc and Manny, neither of whom stand a chance against a Kingdra. On to attempt number 2. Skipping Gyarados, this attempt goes much worse. I use Manny to bring Mrs. Owl in safely on Dragonair number 1, but I guess the chip and paralysis from Garlic were necessary. Owl wins this match, but she's paralyzed with 3 HP remaining when the second one comes out. Dragonair really rubs in how badly this attempt is going by taking out those 3 little hit points with a critical hit Fire Blast. Talk about overkill. By the time Kingdra comes out, I only have Entei, paralyzed with 8 HP, and Sparky remaining. Which is surprisingly not enough to take down what could easily be a pseudo-legendary. How weird. After turning on battle animations, leveling up, and changing held items, let's try this again. This battle starts the same as last time, frying Gyarados and sacking Manny. But then, Claire's nonsense continues. Dragonair paralyzes Mrs. Owl, who proceeds to be immobilized 4 turns in a row. 4 of them. This kills her and this attempt. Honestly though, I can't be too salty about it given how much luck I had in the first couple of attempts. To illustrate how badly this went, my only remaining Pokemon to face Kingdra is a paralyzed Sparky with 41 HP. Yeesh. That was such bad luck that I'm going to try again without any new strategies. This time, Mrs. Owl manages to fight through paralysis and take down Dragonair in 2 hits without taking any damage. She also solos the second Dragonair, only losing half her HP. This basically leaves my entire team to take down Kingdra. Surely we can manage this now, right? After Mrs. Owl is drowned, Entei comes in with his new Choice Scarf. This allows him to move first and set up some smokescreen. He does this twice before getting waterboarded again. Sorry for the brutal defeat, dude. Dino Croc then comes in to slow him down in Scary Face before Garlic paralyzes her with Body Slam. All according to plan. Kingdra hits Garlic down to red health, but this just gives her a boost to Razor Leaf. The first hit deals about 40%, but the second crits for the win. Finally, we've conquered the Johto region. And I'm not even going to mention Claire's temper tantrum. We all know what happens. In the meantime, we get to meet Ho-Oh just like Ash did before we return to Kanto. Feels like the end of the original series if you ask me. We then check our badges at the gate and enter Victory Road, where we run into Gary for the final time. And there's a reason I've not mentioned him at all. Unlike the Silver Conference fight, this isn't even a challenge. Entei single-handedly takes down half of his team with Flamethrower. But the most epic battle comes right at the end. Mrs. Owl versus Magneton. I was ready to bring in Sparky to thunder this stupid Pokemon since Entei was defeated. Magneton tries to cripple Owl with Parafusion, but she just puts the Magnus to sleep. Not sure how that works. And manages to defeat the trio all on her own. It definitely feels like she's the MVP of this run. Maybe I need to buy a Noctowl plush in her honor. Speaking of plushes, it's time to face the Elite Four. First up is Will and his Psychic types. This is actually a great matchup for Dinocroc, who manages to defeat both Xatu and Jinx with Bite. That means I'm giving away at least 2 plushes in the near future. Unfortunately, Exeggutor comes in and stops the momentum, so I have to finish up with Entei's Flamethrower and Sparky's Thunder. Koka is second, but Entei burns his entire team to ashes with Flamethrower. He doesn't even take any damage. Maybe Bruno will put up a fight? Probably not, but we'll see what happens. First is Hitmontop versus Mrs. Owl. The top does decent damage with Quick Attack, while Mrs. Owl devastates the Dreidel with Extra Sensory. Quick Attack hits again, leaving Mrs. Owl with about 2/3, but she manages to take out the Hitmontop with Air Slash. This brings in his brother Chan. They trade heavy hits, and Bruno uses a Hyper Potion. But ultimately, it didn't matter. Chan's priority Bullet Punch takes down Mrs. Owl. Thinking quickly, I bring in Dinocroc, who headbutts the Boxer to earn a 3rd plushie. Lee is 3rd, so I pivot to Sparky. He's hit with Swagger on entry, which is probably the best case scenario. Sparky bites through the confusion to hit Thunder, dealing massive damage. Unfortunately, Lee then obliterates the poor little mouse with a critical hit high jump kick. Oh my gosh. Sparky curses the spaghetti legs from the grave with paralysis, which allows Dinocroc to steal another KO with Headbutt. 4th is Machamp, which is a job for Manny in his debut battle. Manny tanks revenge like a champ on entry. He then claps back with an Earthquake, almost taking out Machamp in a single hit. A critical hit cross chop leaves Manny with about 25%, but another Earthquake takes down the 4-armed monster. Last is Onyx, so I do the only rational thing. Send out Dinocroc to score a 3rd KO in this battle. That's a total of 5 plushies for the giveaway. Karen is next, so let's hit the highlights. Earthquake crits to destroy Umbreon, Flamethrower destroys Vileplume, Earthquake takes down Houndoom, and Dinocroc takes down a freaking Gengar. That is 6 plushies in this giveaway. Oh, and there's a Murkrow there too, but that doesn't really matter. And now, it's time for the champion. I could grind up a lot more to make this easy, but let's give it a few attempts before I do that. First is Gyarados. Skip. Second is his Ace Dragonite. I need to save Sparky for later, so I switch to Manny. Outrage does about 50%, but a crit on the next turn seals Manny's fate. Crap. I send out Garlic, hoping for some paralysis, but no dice. Dragonite does hit himself in confusion, but he follows that up with a Fire Blast to scorch my Vegisaurus. Let's try the MVP Mrs. Owl. Air Slash does decent damage, though a Citrus Berry undoes all of it. Even worse, a single shot of Outrage knocks out Owl. Sparky then misses a Thunder before also being overwhelmed by Outrage. This leaves me with Entei and Dinocroc against 3 Dragonite, an Aerodactyl, and a Charizard. Humorously, Entei is able to set up a bunch of smokescreen, and the 2 manage to whittle down Dragonite enough to force Lance to use a full restore. They then repeat the endeavor and managed even to defeat it. That's a win for sure. Unfortunately, Dinocroc falls during the fight, and Entei is left with 10 HP. Easy pickings for the incoming Aerodactyl. Let's try again. Attempt number 2, and I choose to sack Dinocroc for a safe switch against Dragonite. Sorry, buddy. I'm basically doing the opposite of my previous strategy. Set up the smokescreens first to keep my team alive long enough to take down Dragonite. Entei manages to put 3 of them in before falling to a Fire Blast. Pretty sus that they keep hitting these inaccurate moves despite having their accuracy lowered. But our luck turns around right away. Dragonite hits himself in confusion twice, letting Manny set up and then start a roll out sweep. This takes down the Ace Dragonite and the Blizzard Dragonite that comes in. But a Blizzard left Manny too weak to continue, so the third Dragonite takes him down with Dragon Rush. I resume my previous plan, sending out Garlic to paralyze. Lance switches out for Noctowl, but my plan works anyway. Aerial Ace drops Garlic to overgrow range, allowing for hefty damage from Razor Leaf. Sparky comes back in the following turn to electrocute Aerodactyl. Lance sends out his final Dragonite again. I stay in and go for Thunder. This scores a critical hit and takes down the dragon. We have a chance. All that's left is Charizard. I don't want to risk missing Thunder, so I go for Thunderbolt. This drops Charizard to about a quarter, but he takes down Sparky with Dragon Claw. Mrs. Owl comes in, and Lance heals with another full restore. But Mrs. Owl cannot be stopped. She keeps hurling air slashes at Charizard, taking about half damage from a Fire Fang. Eventually, she does the unthinkable. Scores the final KO against Champion Lance. And with that, we are the champion. Lance takes us into the Hall of Fame, but our sights are set on loftier goals. It's time for Phase 2, Kanto. We blitz through the 8 gyms, stopping briefly to catch a Snorlax for the Ash decks. Dino Croc's also able to pick up a bunch of KOs against Brock, against Blaine, and even against Blue. But none of these battles are actually really that hard if you level properly for the Elite Four, so I'm not counting them as major battles for the sake of the giveaway. Also because I need to save money because I have 2 babies. So the giveaway will be 6 plushes of Pokemon from previous runs. I'll announce that more in a separate video all by itself. But once the plushes come in, I'll release that video and I'll tell you how to enter the giveaway. So make sure you're subscribed for when that happens. After receiving the HM for Rock Climb from Professor Oak, we can finish up our Ash decks. First, I had to Route 12 to pick up the Super Rod. That'll be important in a moment. Then I had to Route 16 to catch a muck named Flubber. Then I head to the Dragon's Den, where I used that Super Rod to find a wild Dragonair. Remember, Ash encountered his Dragonite as a Dragonair before it learned Dragon Dance and evolved. So I'm able to catch this and evolve it into a Dragonite named Pete. Then I give Lobster a Razor Fang and level it up at night to evolve it into Gliscor. And last, but certainly not least, for the final slot in our Ash decks, I catch Fuji the Larvitar at Mount Silver. And with that, we grind up and head to the top of Mount Silver for the finale. I'm here live. We are here at the top of Mount Silver and we are going in. Unfortunately, we are a little bit handicapped because we only have 5 Pokemon versus Red's 6 because needing a HM slave to get up here, which is unfortunate. It's one of my least favorite parts of this game, but we will see what happens. Obviously, I'm starting with Manny. His defense is going to let him tank this super well, even though that did so much damage because Pikachu's holding a light ball, but this Earthquake will knock it out easily. It is very different doing this live versus doing it pre-recorded and editing it later, but like I've said before at the beginning, I'm trying a couple new things with this particular video because it is special to me and it's a momentous occasion for the channel. So Pikachu's down. Now we're in a 5v5. Oh my gosh, I hate the hail so much. I wish there was something I could do to get rid of it, but there's not really. So we're just gonna have to deal with it. Lapras is out, and I did a practice run of this fight earlier, and this is the best thing I can do. 3 of this loser's Pokemon no Blizzard, which is 100% accurate in this hailstorm. So unfortunately, Garlic has to take it on the chin. Oh my gosh. Garlic did not survive that the first time I played. So good job, Garlic. You earned a nice long rest in your Pokeball. Thank you for taking that. So now I can switch freely to Sparky. Now I just have to hope that Thunder hits because Thunderbolt is a range to hit to kill, and Thunder is a 1-hit KO. So Lapras is going down. Oh my gosh, this is so crazy. This run has been so much fun, but I'll get more into that in the very end. Good job, Sparky, taking down Lapras, and now it is a 4v4, I believe. I already don't remember. My brain is just so fried. just the nerves. But yeah, should be 4v4, 4v4. Okay. Snorlax, let's see if this goes as easily as it went last time. Let's send in Manny, who has the great physical defense. If Snorlax does anything physical, which it did not, just like last time. Another 100% accurate blizzard to the face. Please don't freeze. If you freeze, I am done. Or if you crit, oh my gosh. Manny, I need you to thaw out immediately. Otherwise, this is not going to go well for. Yes, thank you, Manny. Oh my gosh, freezing is the worst status condition. There is no way consistently to know if they're going to stay frozen or be thawed out. There are no moves that guarantee a freeze, which is fine because it is super busted. Manny, you are such a tank. And I'm sorry you had to be done dirty, but you got a KO and you're setting the stage for Sparky to come in and wrap this up. Because nobody else really can. I think Snorlax has thick fat. He probably does. Actually, let me check that real quick. Don't mind me jumping over here to Pedia, even though you can't see it. HeartGold, Soul Silver. Yes, thick fat. If he didn't have thick fat, I would send in Entei for this. But it doesn't really matter too much. So Sparky's going to come in and wrap this up with a quick Thunderbolt. And then it's going to... We're just trading hits. We're trading KOs. Oh my gosh, his HP drains so slowly. It's so nerve-wracking. Also, let me know in the comments down below if you want more live final battles, like for the Pokemon League. Gosh, who do I send out? I think it has to be Entei. This is what I did the first time. I know Sludge Bomb is going to do a ton of damage because Quilava's unevolved. Oh my gosh. Wait! This could... Actually, this did more damage than last time. This puts Entei in the Blaze range. This is perfect. This is perfect. This will do a little bit more. Although, if it doesn't do enough to KO, and he just heals next turn, I might be doomed. Oh my gosh, Entei got the one-hit KO. Entei, you are a beast. That did not happen in the practice run. This is why practice runs are so crazy. Or damage calcs, because you never know. You never know. I personally don't do damage calcs. I've mentioned this in other videos. I would rather do a practice run or two. But Entei, you've done a phenomenal job. Let's just try to roast this tortoise. Sorry, it's a tortoise, not a turtle. Aw, if only Focus Blast had missed. This means that I'm actually going into this final bit. Do I dare? I do dare. Listen, this did not go as well in my practice run. In my practice run, I got down to just Sparky and still pulled out the win. Still got the dub, so we went with it. But now we're just going. Sparky is going to clean shop, and we're not even going to need to see Mrs. Owl. Mrs. Owl doesn't need to faint. None of that nonsense. Sparky is cleaning up the house. Oh my gosh, this is so crazy. All right, last up is Charizard, and we're just going to give it a quick Thunderbolt. And just like that, hands off the controller. You can't see it because my webcam is not on the screen, but it is done. Done. We are the champions, and with that, I have completed the Ash deck. I have completed all 16. I've acquired all 16 gym badges, and I've beat Trainer Red. This is like my 4th or 5th HeartGold Soul Silver video, I realize. And now the credits will roll, and we switch back to the webcam for just a moment. This video was so much fun. Thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed trying Ash's team, and limiting it to the moves just makes it so much more strategic. Not having level caps made it so that I could level up if I really wanted to and really got in a pinch. But I also kind of intentionally limited myself to Ash's Johto Pokemon because I know that he has a bunch of cool Pokemon. I could have used Snorlax, for example, with Ice Punch and Body Slam and just wrecked shop. But limiting myself, forcing myself to focus on Ash's main Johto team was so much fun. And it hurt me so much not to have crazy, powerful, awesome moves like Brick Break on Heracross. That dude only knew like Mega Horn and Horn Attack until he came back in the Sinnoh League. Ridiculous. But I absolutely loved this challenge. If you want to see more like this, let me know. But really quickly, I'm going to open up a save state because I have something quickly to show you. Oops, that's the wrong save. That's why I'm not on the video footage yet. All right. And in a previous video, I mentioned that I'm going to start ranking my the encounters in the challenge when I get to the end. So here we are on that. So this is my S rank, my ranking of Ash's Pokemon based on their personalities, not on their movesets, not on how strong they are, not on how cool they are, but based on their personalities. These are in no particular order. I think I tried to order them mostly in order of encounter. S ranks, we have Bulbasaur, we have Gliscor, and we have Dragonite. Dragonite maybe should move lower. I think I could move him a little bit lower. But these two especially, I like them very much. Their personalities are great. Then we have A ranks, Pikachu, Squirtle, Bayleaf, tons of personality, all three of them. They're great. B tier, a little less cool. We have Charizard, who's just kind of tough guy, and we have Totodile, who's the class clown. We have Larvitar, who was a baby, literal baby, traumatized baby who grew up so much. Larvitar is great. And remember, this is based on Ash's Pokemon from the Journeys episode, Journeys 135, where he has a little fantasy, a little vision, a little memory of all of his Pokemon, and Larvitar is there. That's why Larvitar's here. Apom was just I guess another class clown type Pokemon. C rank, these are just kind of meh. These don't really have much personality. Yeah. Oh, I guess Donphan and Quilava should be swapped because that's the order they were encountered. But they didn't have much personality. They're just pretty cool Pokemon. D rank, totally devoid of personality or did not show up often enough to have it. Lapras was just a boat for the team, for the crew. Primeape, Kingler, and Muck just didn't show up very often. Pidgeot just was a bird. And then F rank had no personality or just didn't like them as personalities. Mr. Mime was just a Mr. Mime. And then Beedrill was around for like 3 seconds. But there we go. And we're going to switch back to the webcam real quick. And we're back. But thank you so much for watching. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe. Look out for the giveaway coming in as soon as those plushes arrive. I ordered them today, even before I filmed this, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't use the past tense. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Later, nerds.